Welcome everyone to episode 23 with my good friend Candice D'Angelo from the Agency East. Thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine. I'm so excited for this.
I'm equally as excited, because we spend some time together with the Daily Drip and we know each other, but I don't know a lot about PR in general.
Ooh.
So I'm excited to learn even for myself. And so tell everybody what you do. How'd you end up there, and give us a quick 60-second wrap up about you.
Perfect. I'm actually a 3-time entrepreneur. I got into PR in a very unconventional way. I have a sales training agency, and part of our top of funnel strategy was podcast interviews. And I didn't want to muddle my offers. We got into media features as well. And I was like, hey, I got to do something completely separate. And I needed something that I could have that maybe one day I can sell off, or if my kids wanted to earn it or they wanted to have it, I wanted to give that to them. So that's how I opened up the Agency East. It was founded in Montauk, New York, and we have our main location here in Fort Lauderdale, and then in the summers we're in Montauk. So that's where the east part of that came up.
I love that. I love, we were just talking offline. I love the name. I love your branding. Your social media is great. I love it. I love it. You're entertaining, you're fun, you're educational.
Thank you.
Yeah. So tell us specifically about PR. What is PR? Why do businesses need it? What does that involve? The services look like?
Yeah, I love this question because I think there's a very big misconception about what PR is.
I think I have that misconception, honestly.
Then sit in the chair, get ready for the ride, strap in. Here we go. Hold my hand. Come close. I'm going to help you. So when we look at public relations, a lot of people are like, what's the difference between marketing and public relations, right? It's all under that same umbrella. But let's look at it this way. Marketing is your traffic. It's your visibility. PR is your credibility. It's your reputation. It's how people see you. And we position you in a way that they're always going to see you in a positive light. Mm-hmm. So that's the best way I describe PR.
It's interesting. And my misconception is, well, isn't PR just for famous people? Right. And clearly it's not. Wow. So is it a little Olivia Pope-ish? Like, are you cleaning up people's messes, or are you hoping that we just avoid the messes?
You know what's funny? I've not watched an episode.
Oh, really?
And I need to. No, we do that too. So believe it or not, like small business owners, especially personal brands, because this generation has really developed their businesses around a personal brand. Right. All it takes, the same amount of time it takes for you to have success on social media and online presence is the same amount of time that they can tear you down. So more than ever, personal brands need PR because you are going to have a crisis moment. Right. And that crisis moment can easily be something like Reddit. I mean, who goes on Reddit other than to give you a nasty review? But we still need to address that. And then sometimes you'll have nonprofits that have nasty comments like, oh, you didn't help my cousin, or you didn't help so-and-so. And so we do have to control that. We have to control that fire. So now more than ever, small businesses and personal brands need PR.
That's actually such a good point. I've never thought about it that way, especially with the social media piece of it, of how quickly something goes viral and you get a following and then you say the wrong thing and then you're out. Yeah. It's such a fickle success, right? Because there's just so many people involved, and when the masses like something, they like it. And then when they don't, it's over. You don't exist.
And here's why that happens. And I'm actually glad that you brought that up, because I think some people don't realize the effect. And really all it is people just, if you leave a comment and let's say you get 480 replies to a comment that you say, I don't like this, and they jump on it. The reason for that is because you got 480 comments and they want to be on that visibility coattail too. It's not necessarily that they really feel so strongly about it, but we're in this cancel culture that people want to be a part of that. So they're just going to jump on it. And that creates viral moments. They're just jumping on it because
in hopes that they get picked up.
Absolutely.
That is insightful.
It happens to, I say us, our clients, it happens more often than not. And it can actually, you're making money one day and just something like that so simply. And we've had our clients come back to us and say, hey, we've lost money, X, Y, and Z. And they didn't want to do anything right away. And sometimes you don't. Sometimes you don't want to do, you want to kind of let it cool down a little bit. I'll give you an example, a bigger example, Diddy. Right.
Yeah. That's a whole other episode, but yeah.
But, you know, as a publicist.
Oh, I saw that post of yours.
Yeah. It was sorry. I mean, just what it is, it was sorry. But here's the thing. I would not have responded so quickly. And in PR, you sometimes will fight legal teams, meaning you can't touch it until legal has cleaned the hands of it. That was a legal response, and you can tell that was a legal response because it actually wasn't a very educated response.
It was terrible.
It was awful.
Yeah.
So when we look at something that big, as a publicist, I would have been like, we're not moving. As much as in the integrity piece, we should move fast. There was it was so compounded where when it was actually happening and there wasn't any video coverage, he wasn't saying sorry. Right. He wasn't admitting. He was actually saying, arrest me, arrest my kids. We're fine. We're clean. How dare you? And then when there was video coverage, he was like, I'm so sorry. I'm so ashamed. I'm me. And as a publicist, I would have been like, it's too hot right now. Mm-hmm. It's way too hot right now.
I feel personally like also TikTok is so different when it comes to like these things and the culture on TikTok of what is viral and people. There's so many videos of people just reacting to things, and it is wildfire. When something like that spreads, it's also, I feel like it's different on Instagram, and maybe it's my algorithm, but I feel like the TikTok scene for even, I mean, it's kind of pathetic that like I learned all about this on TikTok because of that, right? Like there's just so many things that it's a shame, honestly, that I spent so much time on TikTok, but is there different strategies for different platforms?
Yeah. And this kind of goes into like the arm of public relations which is our social media platform. So there's a couple of things the couple of reasons why that's happening. The algorithms are vastly different, just like LinkedIn to Instagram. Right. The algorithms are vastly different. The algorithm on TikTok actually pushes content out to people you don't know, whereas the Instagram algorithm pushes out to people that you do know. And if they like it, then they'll push it out to 10% more. So the algorithm works a little bit different. But the thing about TikTok, if you take a look at it, there's a lot more features like stitching. You can cut out, and Instagram came in later with that. So they kind of copied a lot of what TikTok did. So when you have that accessibility to cancel somebody with a stitch, it's fast. It's really fast. Yeah. It's very dangerous. So that's why on TikTok, you're correct. You do see that more on TikTok because the accessibility to do something like that is instantaneously.
Yeah. That's really interesting. It's I know you understand this, and I'm sure your clients understand it, and that's probably one of the reasons they go to you too. It's like, it's so hard right now being a business owner with all of the hats, right? Like it's not just traditional marketing or like, not just cold calling. Now it's like you have to do so many different things. And I feel like this, right, podcasting, I never in my life thought that I would be doing this, that I would be putting myself out there, that I would be recorded on some platform where it's going to live probably forever. Anybody, and it's not that I'm comfortable, right? I've gotten comfortable, but it took me a long time to do these things. And so it's, what advice do you have for business owners that are too shy or too scared or don't know where to start?
I love this question because we have a client right now. She's a IP attorney, and her and her husband own a big litigation firm. So they're very used to being in the courtroom. They're conditioned for that. They know how to perform in a courtroom. But when it comes to that personalized piece, she finds it very difficult. So our strategy right now is podcast interviews. It more audio than visual, because that's going to help her just strategically, step by step, get really comfortable about talking about it. Let's talk about it first. Then we can appear. So just to answer your question, everybody that comes to us, we do ask, like, where are you comfortable? What have you done so far? Show me what you've done so far, because that tells us where we're going to put you. Have you done a ton of podcasts, YouTube channels? Have you been a speaker? Have you been a panelist? Like that tells us like what we're working with and if we need to do media training. So it just depends on where you're at in your business and what your experience has been and what you've been exposed to.
Do you feel like the podcast arena is saturated, overly saturated? Do you think there's space? Like my objective with this, it's not like to be a number one podcast. Like I'm not looking for at all. I don't even know that there's any fame, but I'm not like, my goal was consolidate my networking, spend more one-on-one time with people, business leaders in my community, give them, you guys, a chance to talk about yourselves, what you do, your services, your history, your successes, those things.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, it's a way for me also to buy back some of my time. Like we talked about, like I just need, the networking was so exhausting. And so But I also feel like even overwhelmed with the podcast that I listen to. I'm a batch listener. So I don't do like the week to week stuff. I let like 4 or 5 episodes accumulate and then I'll listen to that one podcast like that week.
Very nice.
That's how I listen to it. But I also feel like I don't have enough time to listen to all the ones. Like, tell me what your firm sees from that angle.
So we're seeing a couple of different things, and it's based on the feedback that we're getting from our clients. When podcasts are our lowest hanging fruit, and I don't mean that in terms of value. I mean that in terms of accessibility, right? Mm-hmm. You need hosts, right? Our guest needs to have a host. So there's this it's mutually beneficial. However, we are seeing and what we're hearing is everybody has a podcast. Mm-hmm. Everyone has a podcast. Is it worth my time? Is it da-da-da-da-da? And again, it goes back to like, what have you done? So if you want to be a speaker, and let me tell you, we've had sales calls where people are like, yeah, I need a powerhouse publicist that is going to get me on stage because I feel like I have a lot to say. And that's great. And I love a good message. But when I ask questions like, so how many podcast interviews have you done? Have you ever moderated? Which ones have you moderated? Are you getting people asking you to be on their stage right now? So I'm kind of framing it to set that expectation, because it's not just podcasts, but everything is active and it's live. And
that's why it's so overwhelming.
It's very overwhelming. Yeah. So we actually have to set the stage and making sure that like, yeah, you want to be on stage, but why would somebody want you
right.
on
Why would an audience come listen to you?
What are they going to take away? Like, why are you different than me? Or why are you different than so-so? But to answer your question, yes, podcasts in particular are becoming saturated, but here's what we're also seeing. So we're seeing this saturation, but at the same pace and the same frequency and the same volume, we're seeing a decline in people having those podcasts because it's exhausting. Mm-hmm. It's exhausting. This is a whole job.
Right.
And I've seen people who have hundreds of episodes and they get a trophy because that's a lot. But then those same people who've gotten like 174, 100 have fallen off. They don't do it anymore. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a balance. The pendulum always seems to swing with podcasts in particular. I don't think they're going away, but here's my number one tip. Always have a YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. Always have a YouTube channel. And the reason for that is because the SEO, it ranks so high, the domain authority for YouTube, it ranks number one, always above your Forbes, your Entrepreneur, your big name outlets. It ranks higher. It ranks at 100. You can't get higher than that. Mm-hmm. To put that into perspective, Forbes ranks at a 94. That is Forbes.
Right.
Okay. Right. So if you're not going to actually on air do a podcast, do this. Because if I were to Google Sierra Gravier,
Gravier, but it's hard.
I'm so sorry.
It's hard.
It is hard. Gravier, this is going to come up first, right? Not your LinkedIn, but LinkedIn will come in second, third.
Yeah.
And that's why we also say your call to action for everything that we do. If you have a podcast, should be your podcast. You want to gain followers and subscribers, but your call to action should always be LinkedIn versus your website, because you can always see who views your profile on LinkedIn. You can't see who views your website. You can't tell who that is, but at least on LinkedIn, you have a name. It catches a name. It catches a profile, right?
Yeah. This is so interesting because it's really good advice for people that don't know where to start, right? YouTube. Get a YouTube. If your business doesn't have anything, at least start a YouTube. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I did this as well. Not only I'm a one-woman show most days, and it was a way to consolidate everything. And the statistics, which is also great with YouTube, that it gives you like the analytics of your channel and your most watched video and how long. The majority of these episodes are watched, a couple minutes. It's not substantial, but I do it for the shorts too, because out of this episode, I'm going to get 4 or 5 shorts that then I can post on all the socials and on YouTube. Yeah. We're doing the shorts on YouTube, which I've heard those are really, really powerful.
You don't need it to be long.
No.
Even if it is long, that's fine. It still ranks number one.
Right.
And they're going to just they're going to go on and they want to hear your voice. They want to see that you're a real person.
That's why I do it. Yeah. When we were talking about it, and I was actually at a convention in my industry, and they asked how many people in the audience have a podcast, because they were challenging that narrative of everybody has a podcast. Why do I need one? What am I going to say? And there was about 350 people in the audience. And they said, how many people here have a podcast? 13 people raised their hand. And they said, you see, everybody doesn't have one. It just feels like it. You're overwhelmed by it because it's everywhere. And the people that have it push it. But in reality, and then they asked, who here is in the same community as anybody? The 13, do you guys share the audience? No, geographically, they're all dispersed, right? So that's actually where this was born, because they said when you guys, they always encourage you, when you leave a conference, take one thing, go back and implement. Otherwise, you just get overwhelmed. They said, walk out of here and start a local podcast. You're going to make a difference in your community. And I do feel that, like, we were talking off air, like initially it still is a lot of work, but I told Candice that I'm enjoying it more than I thought I would. Because I'm having really good conversations. I'm learning. Yeah. I'm learning. I feel like I am providing value. I've gotten business for some of my guests from people that tell me, oh, I saw this episode. Just this week, I saw, Suhail, the employment attorney. She goes, oh, I hired Suhail. I saw one of the clips. And I was like, I was so happy. Yeah. Like, that makes me happier than me getting the business.
You're a conduit, right? Like, you're a community conduit now. So now you're, in a PR perspective, now you've just elevated your online presence from the standard to a conduit. And that is what...
And that's my goal.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Well, yay! Thank you. That initially was my goal. Somebody recently asked me, like, what's the ROI? Like, how much have you written from business? And I was like, probably none. I don't... And it's not about that for me, honestly.
But you actually already expressed the ROI. See, a common misconception on ROI is financial, right? We always think like financial ROI, but sometimes your ROI from this is like pure. You feel so good about what you're doing. You came out to do this with a purpose. You're serving that purpose and you're accomplishing that purpose. So the ROI for you is you don't have to go out and network.
You're 100% right.
You're bringing that. I got
my time back.
You got your time back. So you actually do have an ROI, and I really think it's important that women in particular start thinking in that way, that not everything is a financial ROI.
Let's talk about this.
Please.
Let's dissect this.
Yes.
Because you're a mom of 3.
Yes.
Busy mom of 3.
Yes.
How do you do it? How do you space out your time? I know that you network. Let's talk about networking and being a mom and a woman in business.
I appreciate this question so much because I hope to provide value with my story. I did not realize that when I was about to give birth to my 3rd child, we were going to get hit with a global pandemic. Fisher was born March 31st, 2020. And the day before, I was not sure that my husband was even going to be allowed to come into the hospital with me, let alone into the surgery room. I'm a C-section mom. So when that happened, I first initially was like, great, I get to be at home and I get to just relax. I don't have to be anywhere. Mind you, I had my own business. But what I didn't realize was that I was then going to be a homeschool mom.
Right.
I was going to have to figure out how to nurse my child while being a homeschool mom. I ended up staying at home and made an office out of my room. And I realized I was home all the time. I was raising my children in the same place that I was working. I was cooking dinner there. I was cleaning. I was doing everything there. And I realized I've been in these 4 walls for years. Think about that.
Literally years.
Years. I was diagnosed with postpartum depression. I was put on Zoloft, and I'm very comfortable talking about that. And it got to the point where I was like, I've got to get out of here. My kids were back at school. I needed to get out of here. I was losing myself. I had no idea what life was like. And I think what made the anxiety and depression worse was getting out, oddly, because you become so comfortable being inside and you feel safe, right? And then you leave and it's almost like this desensitization. You feel these like things on your body, and it's a very weird experience. And that's when I knew something was wrong. I ended up a year later, I said to myself, I'm getting out of here. I got an office space, a co-working space. I joined every single networking event that I could do because I was dedicated. I needed to get myself back. I did everything, and then I got tired again. And I was doing too much. And honestly, I was doing the United Way. Women know why. I was reading at Jack and Jill Center in Fort Lauderdale. I was fundraising wherever I could for whoever I could. And I joined the Daily Drip. And out of all of that, the only thing that I'm doing now and chose to do was the Daily Drip. And the reason for that, the twofold, in college, I regretted not rushing for a sorority. Yeah, I really do regret that. I also went to Florida State, so it was a big Greek school. And I regret that. And so I really felt like I found a sisterhood. I really felt like it wasn't business. It was like what we're talking about right now. Like you lived a thread of what I just said. someone else lived a thread. I lived a thread of your story. And that's really why I stuck with the Daily Drip. It just felt like a sisterhood. But how do I do it all? Google Calendar.
You're really good at that.
I'm really good at that. If it's not on the calendar, it doesn't exist. It doesn't happen. I have alerts, reminders. Every night before bed, I look at the calendar and I'm like, what's the big thing for tomorrow? What am I doing? I even have a Pinterest board labeled work clothes where I'm like, what am I wearing tomorrow?
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. If I don't have to think about how to get it accomplished, it makes my life easier.
I know we're going to go down a rabbit hole, but I've been hearing a lot recently of people talking about like decision fatigue. Girl. And how, and I've never realized that, but even there's someone in our space, it's actually a man, that he's so obsessed with autonomy. He lasered his face so he doesn't have to shave. He bought all like the shirt and the pants. He has like 25 combinations of the same shirt and pants because he doesn't have to make a decision of what he's going to wear. He's always wearing the same thing.
That makes sense.
And I was like, and I had never thought about all the little micro decisions that we make and how exhausting that can be.
I sometimes get angry with my husband, and not purposefully or not super angry, but like, what do you want to eat tonight? Or
that's the question that ends marriages. Literally last night, my husband, well, what would you get if I was, and I always, this is how I win. I tell him, but if I wasn't here, what would you get?
Oh,
and then and then he tells me, and then I'm like, okay, I'm like, if I wasn't part of the picture, what would you get?
I can't,
but it is.
I cannot make additional decisions on that day.
Right.
Now, if you ask me, hey, next week, let's go to lunch. Where do you want to go? I'll let you know. But if it's that day, I can't make an additional decision.
It's so interesting. And we're going to circle back to the clothes part, because I feel like that's a big piece of what you do as well. Right. And as women, and I think even maybe I can ask you this. I don't have any children. I've never been pregnant, but like when you bounced back into this space and you bringing this up is quite interesting. And I appreciate you being so honest about it. Is like, you thought that, and even if you did want to be around people again and you wanted to get back into that, it having the opposite effect on you is also frustrating. Like, then it's just like, and I think that COVID had that effect on all of us, really, because I was someone that like enjoyed being outside, and then I got used to being inside, and now I kind of like it inside.
Yeah. So I think that's, if I'm picking up what you're saying, is like, I thought that I was comfortable being inside, and when I went outside, it had the opposite effect on me. When I loved being outside, like, now I need to be outside at some point for a walk, whatever that looks like. But yeah, it had an opposite effect on me.
That's really interesting. And the idea of needing to be everywhere, needing to be maybe everything for everyone to try to also just absorb it is exhausting.
Oh yeah.
And it takes a toll on you.
It did. It absolutely did. And I think it was a gift in and of itself, because now I know I'm not doing that ever again.
Right.
Like there are times where I tell my children, no, you may not. My child, and was walking outside, and it's like go time. Don't ask me a question when we're walking out of the into the garage, into the car. He comes up to me and goes, Mom, do you need a hug? I go, not right now.
Get in the car.
Get in the car. And so it's like, once we're in that motion, you just got to stick to that. But, you know, I do find myself knowing what my boundaries are a lot more now, and saying no to my husband, to my kids, to work, everything. I'm like, no, I can't.
What advice do you have for a woman that's in those shoes for you now? The same shoes that you were in, maybe even postpartum, maybe feeling lost in business, lost personally, professionally.
Yeah, I would say the number one thing, if you're feeling lost, is you've got to find somebody to talk to. I did therapy. I did online therapy. I didn't understand what was going on. I think you need to understand what's going on. I think you need to have a grip on what's going on. I think if you need to take a supplement, if you need to take medication to do that,
there's no shame in that.
There's no shame in that. I highly recommend that. I got myself off of it. I didn't want to be on it forever. But
it was also a temporary situation for you.
It was a temporary.
Can I ask you a somewhat personal question?
Absolutely.
But you had this only after your third pregnancy, or did you have it with the other two and you just didn't know it, or you didn't?
It could. My husband says I had it before my third one, and I didn't know it because he was on the outside looking in, right? Like,
also, it wasn't during COVID.
If you got postpartum depression during COVID, wear it like a badge,
right?
Because you are a hero,
right,
for what you did during COVID by raising children or a child or being a parent.
Especially,
for the first
can you
time.
imagine your first, right? Alone.
Yeah. There were points I couldn't get wipes.
Yeah.
Formula.
Right. So even if you would have recognized that you had it with the other children, it was probably looked completely different.
I wasn't sitting at home all day.
Right.
So I will tell you this. Here are some symptoms that I would look out for. Me telling myself back then, the rage. There's a don't do that. You know, just very like for little things, you know, because you're so stimulated, even though there's not a lot going on, but you're just trying to survive. Your body is in survival mode for whatever's going on up here. So if you find yourself like flying off the handles really easily, sign number one. That was for me. That's not for everybody. That was for me. I would start fearing the night. Going to sleep at night because the nights were long with a newborn. So we have a 2-story house. So I was always like, okay, it's day. I see a little bit of crack of daylight. I would jump up and go downstairs. But as the night started to come and everything dwindled down, then I had to accept my surroundings because it was quieter. So I had to, there wasn't any life going on to kind of distract me from it. So I was like forced to see it and I was forced to be in it. That was when you feel anxiety about a scenario, that's what I would say would be a second sign. These are not familiar signs that people openly talk about. That would be the second one that I would look out for. But you need to find a group of people. The hardest thing you're going to do is getting out of that comfort zone. As much as you can't stand the situation, it's so much harder to get out of that. Right. And I think that's the first step. And that's what I did. I joined everything. And as much as that exhausted me, that helped me.
Right. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's so powerful. And so many women, again, I've never gone through it, but I know that it's something and I've never understood the shame behind it because I feel like it's unfortunate. Yeah. And it's unfortunate that moms feel that way. It's the hardest job on earth and you're new at it. Right. Yeah. And then throw in a pandemic and you're by yourself and you have 2 other, I mean, it's
awful. Another thing I would say is like, I didn't want to hold my baby because I think the shame of like that you don't feel like you can connect on an emotional level. They feel your energy and you don't want, I didn't realize this at the time, but I was like, what is that about? I didn't want to like let him be in my arms at certain times. And I remember going, that's not normal. And I'm so grateful to have had that perspective, awareness because that's why I'm talking about it, because many women do not have that awareness. But looking back now, I was like, I didn't want him to be like, mommy, what's wrong? Even though he was a newborn, right? Like to look at me and be like
if he sensed it,
he sensed it. So I would also look at that as being like something that you really should look into a little bit deeper.
That's really interesting. And again, thank you for that. Let's talk about then. So the bounce back though, right? Yeah. Like, let's talk about, the woman that is looking to get back. What do we, besides signing up at those events and maybe not even just the women, but just the bounce back of networking, right? Or the business owner that just doesn't know. Yeah. So overwhelmed. How do they pick the one? Because I know the Daily Drip, I think based off of what you said today, and for me, the Daily Drip is something, the ROI for me of the Daily Drip is personal.
Very personal.
It is. I have women that understand what I go through on a deep level. Yeah. It's very personal. So what if someone's looking for that community and, how do they find it? What do they do?
I think that's actually a very interesting question. I'm trying to think. I don't know that 1, 2, 3. I don't know that that's a great question for me to answer, to be honest with you. I think that I'm highly ambitious. I don't stop until I feel like it's right or it's done right. Like I said, I think for me, it started with getting my nails done.
The hardest decision I make every month.
Hardest decision to make, but and I haven't stopped. Yeah. Getting my nails done, getting my hair done. And in the beginning, I was like, oh, I don't want to do this. But after a while, it's like I started feeling better.
Well, I think, and also, so what you're saying is also maybe personally, I think it applies to men too. It's not just a woman thing, but I think we're just harder on ourselves about it. But also like look good, feel good.
Yeah. Can we talk about that?
Please.
Let's talk about that.
It's true. It's true. I feel I was on a panel maybe about a year and a half ago for Miss Esquire and the Daily Drip. It was one of the I think they've already done 2. It was the first one that they did. And it was, you know, an all-woman panel, and Riza and Trish interviewed us. And we were talking about just, it was post-COVID, and we were talking about like getting out again and doing things. And I said, one of the things that I had said, which I think a lot of people don't, especially women, don't talk about, was, look, I gained a lot of weight during COVID. And I didn't want to go back outside because I was uncomfortable with my body and myself and my image, and nothing fit me. And I didn't want to go shopping. Right. So, and I had to realize that if it was getting in the way of my business, I had to do something about it. I didn't want to be on camera. Right. I didn't want to sit here and do a video because I couldn't look at myself. Oh, wow. Right. So I think it's like, comes back to like awareness too. Like, it's important to feel comfortable in your skin.
I really love this. So many things are coming up for me right now. So before Fisher, we had a miscarriage, and I hit 40. Literally, as I hit 40, I was super fertile. I had babies, no problem. And then I hit 40 and I had my first miscarriage. And I had never respected my body the way that I did after that miscarriage, because it was almost like my body was like, excuse me, ma'am, you need to step aside. We know exactly what we need to do here. We need to handle this. It knew what it needed to do. I had no control. I had nothing to do with it. And I was so enamored by my own body, the female body, and what we do, not just every month, but all the time. We're given hair, we've been given things, and there's this femininity that needs to be exuded from us. Maybe not all the time, but I feel that way. I feel like that's a gift. And so if I can create human beings or grow human beings and bring them into this world, or have my body say, you know what, it's not right this time, and it knows what it needs to do, then I need to celebrate that.
Oh, I love that.
I need to celebrate that. And so I stopped not caring about what I put on my body. I started, like, I have a Pinterest channel. What am I going to wear today? Like, things that I like. And I work in my office by myself. Most of my team is remote except for 2 people. I get dressed every day. So
let's talk about that. Why do you think that's so important to dress up for you?
Yeah. You take yourself more seriously, and others will take you more seriously as well. You never know who you're inspiring also. And I've been told that often, like, you're so inspirational. People offline, I'm also a sales support coach and group coaching programs. They'll get offline and be like, you've changed my life. Or people in my co-working space, like, wow, you look so nice today. You know, like, you're inspiring people. You know, you're changing their lives just from being in your circumference. And you have to own that. And I'm going to be 45 in about a week. So I'm going to own that. Yeah. I started going to F45. I go twice a week. I get my cardio on. I have 3 kids. You know what? I don't want to be hitting 50, 55 and being like, shit. Oh, excuse me. No, it's okay. I should have started earlier, and now it's going to be harder. So I feel like I've been more successful with my job, my work, my career, and it also helps me be more confident. When I feel good in what I'm wearing, I feel more confident. And that comes out in my work and how I interact with people.
I think I needed to hear it, I'll tell you, because sometimes, you know, I take for granted that I work behind closed doors. Nobody comes to my office. I plan my days pretty strategically, where it's like, okay, this day I have to look put together. This day I should look put together all the time.
You should look. And I should. And that's not me judging.
No.
I have a client who, we were just talking about this the other day, and I asked her a question to be pitched for Entrepreneur or Inc. magazine, one of the 2. And the question was, what's the one thing that has made you successful in your entrepreneurial journey? And she gave me 2 answers, but the one that stood out the most, she goes, you know what? I have dressed for success every single day. She answered a Craigslist opportunity for a janitor at the company that she now owns.
It's the best story ever.
And she now owns it. And she said, Candice, whether I was working the front desk, whether I was working as the operations, I always showed up for success. And I really feel like that's how I got to where I am right now, because I believed. And if you believe, you're going to show up in what you believe, right? So you have to believe in yourself if you want others to believe in you.
And dress, even if you don't believe in yourself, you could dress like you do.
And I think organically you will, it's like manifesting, right? You will start to be, you feel really good about yourself. You really do.
Well, it's funny because I've realized that, like I said, like I've lost probably close to about 60 pounds. And I realized that I've been given some opportunity, not because I've lost weight, but I've been given opportunities to present and to be on stage. My industry is very male dominated. And I've realized that the pressure and the nerves and the stress of doing it, my appearance hasn't been on top of that. Like, I thought to myself, man, if you hadn't worked on yourself already, that would be another layer of stress of, I got to lose 50 pounds in 4 weeks before I get on stage. Right. Like, so it has a lot for me personally. It was important to me. I didn't feel comfortable in my skin. I didn't want to be, I didn't want to be and I still don't want to be a center of attention. This just, and by nature, that's not who I am. But like, if you're going to be on a stage and there's going to be 600 eyeballs on you, you want to feel good.
You do. Can we talk about that first? Can we talk about something you brought up? You said you were in a male-dominated industry, and I want to align our worlds for a second in a very unconventional way. Another reason why I dress up and I get my nails done, I get my hair done, and I go to dinners with my girlfriends, like, I have my own life. First of all, I think that helps with successful relationships in general. You having your own thing going on. That's number one. But also, I live in a house full of men. I'm the only girl. You know how easy it is for me to slap on a pair of jeans and a t-shirt and sneakers and just
and like not take care of yourself.
Not take care of yourself. It's very easy to get in that. So if you were in a male-dominated industry, I don't think you realize, but sometimes like that's happening in the background and you slowly like creep into that, like being the ordinary and the standard because you're in a male-dominated industry. So think about that.
Yeah, no, you are 100% right.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I do this to learn for myself. It's borderline selfish, really. It's for myself. And and I'm so happy that we're talking about this because we've never had anybody talk about this and the importance of it. And I think that, and I think COVID has made, some more casual wear more acceptable, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And I remember my dad in the agency that we used to own in the past, like we had to beg for casual Fridays. Oh. And he was just like, no, if you're in jeans, you automatically feel like you can work half the time. You feel more comfortable. You feel like it's a slower day because you're wearing jeans. And I don't think he's wrong.
I was over here like, I don't know if I should answer this.
Like, I mean, I don't know that he was wrong. I think again, COVID has made more casual wear, acceptable, but really it really does matter. That decision of looking your best, feeling your best, you're also ready for any opportunity that comes around.
Always dress like you're going to run into your ex-boyfriend.
Oh, that's good.
She said, oh.
That's good. Listen.
Always, because
that's good.
Imagine if you did.
Right. And you look a hot mess.
And the one that broke up with you. And you look like a hot mess. Right. Don't let that happen.
No,
do not let that happen.
I love that.
And you should. And I think that having your own life and having your own personality and having your own identity, regardless if you're in a relationship or not, but I really feel like that is the key to success. And I'm so glad that my client said that yesterday because she was like, I know we're not supposed to talk about this. And, Michelle Caba and I talked about it too. She always used to wear red bottoms when she was on Wall Street. She talked about that for a little bit and own it. Right. Like we talked about maybe it's sexualized and not on purpose, but maybe that's our proclivity. Maybe we like to wear red bottoms on Wall Street. And why should I be ostracized for any other reason? Right. And so when my client was saying this to me, she was like, I know we're not supposed to talk about this. And she said it, and I go, why aren't we? Why is that taboo? Because there's this narrative of you didn't earn your spot. You didn't earn your award. You were favored because of what you wore. And I think like sexual discrimination, and I think a lot of the turning of events for women has also, there's always a coin to flip, right? So as much wins as we have gotten, there's these narratives that have come with that, okay, you've gotten these things based off of something like sexual discrimination because of something that you wore was just a little bit too revealing. So you can't actually make it positive.
You can't celebrate it, right?
You can't celebrate being who you are. So now you're reserved because you don't want to be labeled anything. So I think there's just this, we got to get really clear on being confident and who we want to be, what we want to wear, and not be oversensitive if we don't feel that same way.
I was going to say, can we also talk about the women that do that to other women? That's a problem. You told me you had a hard stop. I don't know that we have it, but that happens often.
You got a good 7 more minutes out of me, but
that happens often.
We are our own worst enemies, and this is why I fell hard for the Daily Drip.
Yep, I agree.
This is why I fell so hard. Take my money. It's not even a lot of money either. And she could tell me something else tomorrow. I'd be like, that's still not a lot of money.
I tell Nicole all the time, there isn't anything that you're going to do that I'm going to disagree with. I know that.
I know.
100%.
I agree. And when you tell me all roads lead to Rome, I believe you. Yep. And so like we have to support each other and stop tearing each other down, because we just don't need that. Mm-mm. We don't need that. Mm-mm. I have gotten rid of plenty of friends who have said the wrong thing and like just made me feel really crappy. And I think we just need to stop doing that. And really what that comes from is jealousy. Mm-hmm. And come for me if you want to, but that is jealousy. That's not you being secure in yourself.
Right.
Now, don't get me wrong. If you're like, I tell you what, I don't like those nipple bras, those Skims nipple bras. You're going to get a comment out of me about those. Like, I think that is just.
Well, I mean, yeah. There's a time and a place. And like the professional setting is not for a nipple bra.
Not for a nipple bra. But the women are going crazy over it. Crazy over it. So we don't have to support each other. We don't have to tear each other down.
Right. I feel like there's a couple women in this professional space on my side that I don't necessarily align with what they've done, their behaviors or their ways.
Yeah.
But I just stay silent about them then. I don't shred them. I just stay silent. Yeah. I don't voice my opinion, especially not to a man.
Right.
No. I'll keep it to myself and talk to you about it behind closed doors, not on a podcast, right? like I really try to make a real effort to not have those conversations, especially with men.
But I think the women that you don't align with also need to have a certain awareness, right? Like in a certain setting, about not about how they're affecting others, because we really have to mind our own business. And if we were all minding our own business, we wouldn't have a topic right now. And I really think that we should just mind our own business.
Right.
Everybody just mind your own business. Stop talking about somebody else. Don't talk about this person. Just, if you were minding your own business, you would be super successful.
Right. If you gave all that energy to
your business, you'd be very successful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that the stuff that we have talked about, first of all, in our 23 episodes, we've never talked about this, but first of all, I'm glad it was with you because you're super vulnerable and honest, and that's refreshing. And I knew that about you because you're part of the Daily Drip, and all of the women in the Daily Drip are this, which is why it's such a wonderful community. But, personally,
thank you.
I have things I need to improve on, and I will, because you have impacted me. And it's true. It's sometimes we're just so knee deep into this life, into this business and growing a business and the issues and the hurdles that you forget about yourself.
You do.
You know, and when you're working behind closed doors and sometimes I'm just like, it doesn't matter what I look like, right? I'm just sitting behind a computer
because you're thinking about other people.
Right. I'm just like, and you're almost rushing through the day, rushing through the things. So to wrap it up, give a woman entrepreneur that's new, just anything, your best piece of advice on just entrepreneurship.
Yeah, there's a cost of entrepreneurship that nobody talks about. You will get romanticized by entrepreneurship, but there's always a cost. And I'm a very big football fan, both college and NFL. And one of my favorite coaches who I listen to every press conference is Kirby Smart, head coach of the Georgia Bulldogs. And one of his conferences, he said that everybody talks about leadership, but nobody talks about the cost of leadership. And I want to share this with everybody. You will be disliked despite your best efforts for doing the best for the most. So no matter what you do, somebody will dislike your decision, but that decision is for the best of the majority. And it's for the best of what you're trying to achieve. So you will get people that don't like you, and you just got to keep moving. You just got to keep moving and go on with your dream.
That is so powerful. But because so many people get caught up in what are people going to think of me, even myself. So Malia yesterday, another member of the Daily Drip, posted something on her Instagram about how even her, that she's always in front of the camera.
She is.
Somebody had asked her what's her pitch, or what is her claim for fame? What is she good at? And the video was talking about how she's so nervous, or like she was in her head yesterday about making the video, about telling the public why they should do business with her. And she's so confident. You would never think that of her. And I commented on it and I said, I needed to hear this because I'm in my head constantly about what I post.
Yeah.
Because what are people going to say about me? Like, oh, people are going to think people are going to think that I think I'm an influencer. Who cares?
Nobody.
No, really. Thank you. But this is so true. Because it's just like, it's myself. I'm in my own head thinking, what are people going to think about me? Oh, people are going to, who cares?
You should ask yourself how you were raised. Were you raised to, I'm not asking you, but to the general audience, were you raised, we don't speak unless spoken to. We don't listen to grown folks' conversations, right? Like like I said, I'll be 45 next week. So I was born in 79. That was a very big thing. I'm half African American. I was partially raised by my grandmother, who was born in Georgia. Mm-hmm. Her mother and her grandmother were slaves. So yeah, we did not.
Right.
We did not partake in grown folks' conversation. So we really did have those manners. And if we don't ask for anything, it's rude to ask. So I think just generationally, there's something to be said about why maybe millennials are a little bit more in their head and maybe a little bit more insecure about putting themselves out there. Because we really do need to think about, well, when I was being raised from ages 1 to 7, what did my parents say about something like that? Because that's what that is. That's conditioned. Years 1 through 7, that's hard wiring that's going on. So like if you asked for money or if you wanted something, it was like you got to do chores to earn it. Right. So now it's like when you get money, it's like you don't want to ask for what you feel is the appropriate number because there's something that's going on psychologically. You're like, you don't ask for money. So like we can go on a whole nother one about this, but I want you to ask yourself that. I want you to ask, why is that?
I think it's just like, it's my own like embarrassment, right? A piece of it is just getting comfortable. I'll be honest with you. And it ties back to the life lesson I just got. Sometimes I'm just like, well, you look a mess. You can't be on camera, right?
Okay.
So sometimes I'm just like,
well, so are you owning it?
No, and I need to.
No, what I'm asking you is, are you not confident, and not now because I feel like you are confident, but like to everybody else, are you just saying like, oh, I don't do that. I'm not dressed for that. Are you not dressing so that you can say that?
Oh, well, I didn't realize we were having a therapy session.
Well, we are sitting in these Target chairs that are amazing.
I mean, maybe I'm self-sabotaging myself in that.
Well, so when we talk about business ownership, we do that all the time. We do it on purpose.
I just caught myself doing that with an account that had more zeros than I'm used to. And it scared me. And one of my mentors was like, it's the same thing you do every day.
Every day.
Why are you, it's your own head. It's your own narrative.
Yeah.
It applies.
And so we do coach our clients on that on both sides. It's like, you do have to manage personalities in your job, regardless of what you do as an entrepreneur, as a business owner. If you have employees, when you have clients, when you have repeat clients, when you have clients for long term, when you have employees for long term and they go through stuff in their personal life, you are managing personalities. Now, which personality is a whole other story.
Listen, managing employees and God, I can talk to you for hours.
I know.
There's so much I need to talk to you about. And I think on camera, because I think that this is so hard. Entrepreneurship is so hard. And I think that people give up too easy.
You think?
I think so. I think that, and I think I was actually a guest on a podcast yesterday, and they asked me, if you had one piece of advice for someone in the insurance industry that's just starting out, what would you say? And I would say find a community. Yeah. Because I feel like the number one reason why business owners quit prematurely is because they're doing it alone. They don't have the support, and you need support. And even if your family and your friends are supportive, if they're not business owners,
it's not the same.
They don't get it.
I have a group of friends that are business owners, and I have a group of friends that do not own a 100%. Business, because I need to have both worlds.
100%. It's and as good as their intentions are, and it's still nice to be reinforced by people that love you and care about you and believe in you. Sitting here, having you and I talk about something, me calling you on a day where I lost my biggest client, something like that is only something that another entrepreneur feels.
Yes, not just gets.
No.
They hurt too.
When I met Robin, Robin and I, my first interaction with her was talking about like, sometimes these payroll checks that I'm writing, or it's like it keeps you up at night.
It doesn't make any sense, does it?
That type of stuff. Yeah. If you don't have someone to talk about, if you don't have a community that you can lean into, I think that that's probably the number one reason why people would give up on themselves, which is tragic. That breaks my heart. That I would hate to see that, you know? So that's kind of another reason why I did this, right? Because it could be a community for people that don't have one. Yeah. My industry is very supportive, but I've heard that not all are the same. So I feel like, well, at the very least, if there's a lost business owner out there that needs some sort of support or real conversations, you know, they can tune in and hear it from, you know, entrepreneurs that have survived it and are thriving through it. Thriving.
That's the goal.
Thank you so much for being here. This was probably the fastest episode. Flew by. It went by. And we covered so many things, and we left so many things uncovered, but that just means we'll bring you back.
Thank you for having me.
So thank you. If everyone wants to reach out to you, where do they find you?
Absolutely. So you can reach out to me at the Agency East on Instagram, the Agency East PR. That's where you can find the funnies. You will enjoy yourself. Good. It's really good, that stuff over there. So definitely on Instagram.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. And for sure, we will have you back.
See you then.